The single most important thing you need to learn for any job in business is how to communicate, how to write a memo, how to talk, how to think.
What's happening, investors? AK from Fallible here. Do you recognize that dapper man in that video? It's none other than Paul Tudor Jones, the market wizard and billionaire investor. And not only is he wearing a nice suit, but he is absolutely right in what he's saying. In this video, we're going to talk about why it is so important for a trader to be able to communicate effectively, and how doing so will transform your performance in the market. PTJ explains the main reason effective communication is important here.
It also is fantastic in problem solving, because if you can take the whole issue, distill it down into its most important parts, who, what, where, when, why, and how in the first paragraph, and then the next most important part after that, you'll be able to see the big picture and come up with the answer and be the most valuable employee wherever you work.
It all comes down to problem solving, whether in business or in trading. And if you could write or in general effectively communicate, then you're leagues ahead of everyone else in solving that problem. So for example, in trading, no matter what your thesis is, whether it's a stock, commodity, currency, whatever, there is usually one fundamental driver driving it. There is one key fundamental that is moving the price, and everything else is just secondary. So if you're able to communicate effectively, then you would be able to identify that main driver and tell it to somebody else. And just the process of trying to simplify your thesis to be able to communicate to someone else quickly and effectively what is driving something's price, that process is going to help you identify it yourself so that you know what to focus on and what's important versus what's just noise. Now, if you can't communicate effectively, then most of the time that means you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And my favorite, and I mean absolute favorite quote that describes this, ooh, I love it so much, comes from Richard Feynman, the famous physicist. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if you can't explain something simply enough that a 6-year-old can understand it, then you don't really understand it yourself. And Feynman is a guy who was playing with quantum physics, which is the most complicated thing known to man, I'm pretty sure. But that line pretty much sums up effective communication. Simplify, simplify, simplify. There is such a failure in the financial industry to do that. Most of these articles I read make no damn sense. And it's not because I'm stupid. I know I'm not stupid because my mom said I'm smart and she's very trustworthy. The problem is most of the people writing these articles don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the concept themselves and have a very tough time describing it to somebody else. So what they do instead is take a bunch of jargon and numbers and throw it all into a page, and hopefully they sound smart so that the reader thinks, oh, this is just above my head, I can't understand it. But no, it's the freaking guy who's writing it who doesn't understand it. He needs to do a better job of communicating it to you. You've read those articles before. Oh, with the regression of the analysis and the China, and then the solar and the parallelogram with the sphincter and the 40,000 units with the ROI and the mergers and the synergy, and that's why Apple is going up. Don't be fooled by all that fancy speak. It's just poor communication. And you guys remember that yield curve video I did? It was about a month ago or so where everyone was talking about the yield curve inverting and that's signaling a recession. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link to it above. But I was reading all those articles and I could not find a good explanation of why the yield curve inverting actually leads to a recession. I would literally type into Google, why does an inverting yield curve lead to a recession? And of course, I'd get tons and tons of results with that exact title. And do you know what they said? Well, the yield curve inverting usually signals a recession because a recession usually occurs once the yield curve inverts. Oh. Wait a minute, did you just repeat the same shit back to me twice? And that was pretty much every article. No one knew what the hell they're talking about, which is why I created a video myself to explain it properly to you guys. Which, by the way, if you see other concepts in the news that don't make any sense, make sure you comment about them in the comments so that I see them and I can make a video about them. And of course, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that bell for notifications, because I'm always taking these investing concepts that have shitty explanations online and trying to do a better job. So if you want to see those videos, subscribe. Now, if you don't know, I'm one of the co-founders of MacroOps, which is a macroeconomics related research firm. And one of the main reasons we started that company is because we knew how important effective communication was. And it wasn't just for our clients and customers, but it was for ourselves too. Because in the process of trying to break down these complicated macroeconomic concepts into simple terms that anyone could understand, we ourselves understand them better. And it's not an easy job because a lot of these things are complex. But again, we spend a lot of time sorting through all the BS and narrowing it down to the real main drivers of everything. And then we put that together in our reports and do our best to both simply and effectively communicate it to our community. And even in the process of doing the communication, in the process of writing all this stuff, you start to realize that writing is a form of thinking. So you might start here, like, okay, I want to define this macroeconomics concept and explain it to everybody. But in the process of doing that, you start realizing things that you don't understand, and you start asking yourself questions like, why does X lead to Y? And that's when you start thinking and learning, and it's all stemmed from trying to explain it yourself. So in the few years that we've had this research company, we have learned so much just from communicating. And here on Fallible, I try to take it a step further, because not only do I want to communicate effectively and give you guys concepts in the simplest and easiest way to understand them, but I also want to make it entertaining, which is why I got all these stupid jokes. I love jokes a lot, and food. But the problem I found online is even when you sort through all the noise and maybe find one single blogger that is able to explain things simply and effectively, most of the time they're still extremely boring. And I hate boring. I can't handle it. I don't have the attention span. Well, I do have a good attention span, but not for boring stuff. It's gotta be entertaining, because why not? Honestly, not communicating effectively, and then I think not making it entertaining on top of that, is just laziness. You know, it's not easy. It does take work, but it's absolutely worth it. Oh, and here's a hint if you want to start a successful business. There is so much information out there for free, but it is all explained and communicated so poorly. So all you got to do to have a profitable business is take that information and just communicate it in a better way. And the amount of value that you produce by doing that, you'll see it in your bank account when people are paying you for it. Like, just take Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yes, he is extremely smart and understands all this stuff, but there's a lot of PhDs that understand this stuff. His biggest advantage is being able to communicate it effectively. And that's why he's Neil deGrasse Tyson and not some other guy just working in a lab somewhere. Okay, I'm done ranting, sorry. So how does this help you as a trader? Or how do you practice this effective communication in the market? Well, it goes back to your trade journal. Yep, I'm gonna link to that video, you need to watch it. But if you're writing in your journal, your trade thesis, that process is gonna help you analyze that trade far more than anything else. It is an extremely important step, because while you're writing, you may realize, oh, wait a second, this is a shitty trade, I should not be taking it. There is barely anything backing it up. And you might not realize that until you write it out. You know, there's this hedge fund manager test where, I don't remember who said it, maybe it was PTJ, but he says if an analyst is pitching him something, a new investment that he's gonna invest millions, maybe hundreds of millions in, he expects that analyst to be able to describe it in 30 seconds. Pretty much like an elevator pitch. Or another way to look at it is explain something in 3 sentences. And when you're forced to condense this whole thesis into something so small and quick, you better believe you're gonna get down to the main points, to the main drivers of what's gonna move the price. So that's what you should be doing in your trading journal. What you need to do is print out a picture of PTJ, frame that picture, put it right by your computer, and say, oh, PTJ, you look beautiful today. Here's my thesis in 3 sentences. Say it to him and then write it down. And there you go. Just doing that is gonna improve your results immensely, because you're gonna prevent yourself from making stupid trades, and you're gonna realize other trades too while you're doing it. And even beyond just being in your own personal journal, you can take the same mentality and provide value to a community. So for example, with Fallible, in the comments, feel free to post your thesis. Have other people, including me, comment on them, and we could go over them. We could pick it apart, see where it's good, see where it needs work, and in the process, we'll all be better off. So clear and effective communication. It is extremely important. And speaking of, if you ever don't understand a concept that I'm talking about in a video, like I said, 90% of the time, that's not your fault. It's just me doing a bad job explaining it. So if that ever happens, just comment below and I'll make another video doing a better job explaining it. Because like I said, communication is pretty tough and I don't get it right all the time. Nobody does. But I do my best and I look good doing it. But yeah, just comment below. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that bell for notifications of new videos. We go over everything market related, from news to strategies to trade ideas, everything. So subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Stay fallible out there. Bye.